Remember Christmas in the 1940s and 50s? It wasn't about perfectly matching color palettes, designer ornaments, or those flawless, themed trees you see everywhere today. No, it was about something deeper. It was about warmth. It was about family. And most of all, it was about creating beauty and joy with whatever you had on hand. Tonight, I want to take you on a little trip back in time. We're stepping into those cozy, post-war living rooms, where decorations were simple, often homemade, and absolutely filled with love. So, get comfortable as we remember how families truly decorated for Christmas back in the 40s and 50s, a time when the holiday spirit seemed to glow even brighter than any light bulb. In the early 1940s, the war cast a long shadow over everything, and that included Christmas. Resources were scarce, and families had to be incredibly creative. They held on to what they had, cherishing every single ornament from years past. Store-bought decorations were a luxury few could afford. Glass was limited. Metal was precious, needed for the war effort, so people made their own magic. They strung garlands from colorful paper chains, a perfect craft for little hands. Ornaments were fashioned from scraps of fabric, bits of tin, or even walnuts painted silver or gold. People created beauty right from their own homes. Stockings were knitted by the fire, toys were carved from wood, and tiny angels were hand-stitched with love and care. Children would make paper stars, dip them in glue, and sprinkle them with sugar to create a sparkling snow effect. These decorations might sound humble to us now, but the warmth they brought into those homes was absolutely unforgettable. They were symbols of resilience, hope, and the enduring spirit of Christmas even in the toughest of times. Every homemade piece told a story and held a memory, making the celebration that much more meaningful. Then, when the war finally ended, something truly magical happened. It was like the world and Christmas could breathe again. For the first time in years, families could walk into a store and find things that sparkled. Brightly colored glass ornaments from Germany and Poland started reappearing. Electric lights, once a rarity, became more accessible. And of course, there was tinsel and shiny garlands. Christmas just exploded with color and light. And oh, those big bulb string lights. They were warm, oversized, and honestly, a little bit dangerous by today's standards. But they made every living room glow like a Christmas postcard. Then you had the mercury glass ornaments. They were so fragile, hand-painted with beautiful details, and they became treasured heirlooms passed down for decades. And who could forget the tinsel? I'm talking about the real kind made of lead. It was heavy, so it hung perfectly straight from the branches, and it sparkled so brilliantly in the light. Of course, little bits of it would stay on the carpets long after the tree came down, a glittering reminder of the season. It was a time of renewal, and you could feel that joy and relief in every shimmering decoration. Now let's talk about the centerpiece of it all, the Christmas tree. In the 1940s, trees were a bit more organic. They were smaller, almost always real, and sometimes a little imperfect with a gap here or a crooked branch there. But they smelled absolutely wonderful. That fresh pine scent filled the whole house. Often, families would go out and cut the tree themselves, a grand adventure that ended with it tied to the top of the car or dragged home by hand through the snow. Fast forward to the 1950s and the look started to change. This was the beginning of the modern Christmas aesthetic. Trees got brighter, fuller, and a lot more glamorous, loaded with tinsel and lights. And then came the true icon of the era, a symbol of the future, the aluminum Christmas tree. It was shiny, it was futuristic, and it was often proudly placed right in the front window for all the neighbors to see. It wasn't about looking like a real tree at all. It was about creating a sense of modern magic. And you couldn't have an aluminum tree without its partner, the spinning color wheel. It would sit on the floor, washing the metallic branches in waves of blue, then red, then green, then yellow. It was mesmerizing. Beyond the tree, there were some decorations that almost every family from that era remembers. Do you recall bubble lights? Those little glass tubes filled with colored liquid that would bubble and dance with warmth when you plugged them in. Kids could sit and watch them for ages, like miniature fireworks on the Christmas tree. And nearly every home had a nativity set. They were often simple, maybe made of wood or plaster, and many were handed down from grandparents. It wasn't just a decoration. It held a quiet reverence, placed at the center of the home on a mantel or a side table, a gentle reminder of the season's meaning. Another classic was the display of Christmas cards. They weren't just tossed in a bowl. They were proudly strung up, pinned across door frames, draped above the fireplace, or taped to the walls, turning the house into a gallery of handwritten love and well wishes from friends and family, near and far. And you can't forget the homemade wreaths. They were crafted from evergreens, ribbons, berries, and whatever the children could find on a walk outside. Christmas back then wasn't about being picture perfect. It was heart perfect. So, what really made these years so special? It wasn't just the vintage look or the specific ornaments. The decorations were so meaningful because families created them together. It was a shared activity, a ritual. You'd have mom in the kitchen, patiently stringing popcorn and cranberry garlands with the kids. You'd have dad wrestling with that tricky, old-fashioned tree stand, maybe muttering under his breath a little. The children would be at the table, armed with safety scissors and colored paper, cutting out stars and snowflakes. There were no rules. There was no aesthetic to follow on social media. There was zero pressure for perfection. There was just laughter, the scent of pine and baking cookies filling the air, Christmas music playing softly from a console radio in the corner, and a deep, profound sense of togetherness that feels so rare today. Christmas in the 40s and 50s wasn't something you just decorated for. It was something you made. It was built by hand, by heart, and by family. A simpler, warmer time, and a feeling we still carry in our memories. And before we wrap up, I'd love to hear your memories. How did your family decorate for Christmas back in the 40s or 50s? What ornaments or traditions do you still remember? Share your story in the comments. I promise I read every single one. And if this little trip back in time warmed your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might remember, and subscribe. Oh, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next nostalgic story. Trust me, the best memories are still ahead. Thanks for watching.